One of the things that I saw future cast was, uh, boy, how do I like like the sun, and I'm not sure if it was the sun, but what I saw were people, and they were representative of like little dashes, just massive, massive amounts of people. And this flash from the sun or something else came, and it would touch everyone. There was no one that was going to be missed. And it's coming.
I'm happy to be here with Claudia Watts Edge today. Claudia, thank you so much for being my guest. I'm excited to have you on the show.
Yay. We've been trying to connect for a while. So sometimes life gets in the way, but it's perfect right now, right
It
here
is
and now,
perfect.
right?
That's right. Yes. Now is the right time for us to connect. And I'm so glad that we are because your experience is really interesting and I'm really excited to share that with my audience. You actually had a traumatic event in your life where you had a near-death experience. You died during childbirth. Tell me about
Mm.
what happened.
Oh, wow. And I appreciate that you're calling my experience interesting because, and I'll get into the story in a little bit, but for a while I felt really slighted by my experience, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but it has grown and gotten more interesting. So yes, thank you. Um, I'm 71 now, but so it's been 40 years ago, I was expecting my last baby, and I have had four beautiful little kids at home and a very healthy pregnancy. But I've had an intuition. Something didn't seem right. And I just had this feeling I was supposed to go and be checked. And I tried ignoring it, and it got quite strong to the point where I knew I just had to go to the hospital. There was really nothing wrong with me. I had had one contraction, which is when your belly gets real hard, and it never let up. And I started to think that maybe my baby was uncomfortable. So I went to the hospital, and uh, they gave me a gown to be checked. I kind of had to talk them into it because there really wasn't anything wrong with me. But I had only been at the hospital for 5 minutes when my placenta had been filling with blood, and it ruptured. It literally exploded in my entire um, woman's cavity. um, and I bled out in one big spill. I was in serious trouble, and my doctor wasn't there. They found an intern who took one look at the room, the condition of me and the nurse, and even up through the walls in the room was covered in blood in just a very short amount of time, that he declared I had 2 minutes of life left. So, you know, I was thinking the other day of when you're given you find out you have a disease or something, we'll say cancer, and you go through and go, there's that mystery and that anger, and, how much time do I have? And you kind of go through these until you finally have an acceptance of this is what I have, and perhaps I'm going to die. But when someone comes and says, you're going to die in 2 minutes. I went through a lot of those steps in a very short amount of time. My biggest concern as a mom was to please save my baby. And I gave permission for them to take my baby immediately, which meant, um, sorry, sometimes it's hard for me to talk about. They held my arms and legs, and they cut me from stem to stern without any kind of anesthesia. I wasn't in an operating room. I was just in an examination room with just a light above me and a scalpel and a bunch of people holding me down. And I was trying to be really brave. And I was trying to keep my heart rate low because I had this, I imagined that being afraid and having my heart just pumping, that I was losing what little blood I had left in a short amount of time. And so I was trying to calm myself as they're moving organs and intestines, and the pain was unspeakable. I've found no earth words to describe that kind of pain when you're when you're awake and they're moving body parts around and cutting and when they lifted a little lifeless baby from me, I heard she had drowned in my blood. I was out. I popped out of my body. And I left this really traumatic scene, and it didn't even seem weird that I could go through walls or that I could, I looked at this horrible scene and not even really thinking that that was me underneath me, because I was fine. I was great. My Claudia was, I had my personality and my thoughts and curiosities were all with me. So that person laying there beneath me, I felt sorry for her, but it didn't register that it was actually me and I was leaving me behind, because me was okay. I was cool. So I flitted around the hospital and I ended up in a gentleman's room watching television, and I noticed that he had no idea I was there. And I even did kind of one of these in front of him just to see, and absolutely blank, just looking at the TV. And it was that time that I had a realization that I'm dead. I'm really dead. And it wasn't scary. It didn't bother me. I was okay. I felt like everything was as it should be, or just everything was going to be okay. And I snapped into a darkness. I I should probably take a step back and say that as I was bleeding out in those last couple of minutes, the walls in the room were becoming fluid, and they were getting tighter and closer in. And I thought, this must be the tunnel that I've heard about in other NDEs. And because I knew I was dying, I was kind of expecting, oh, here comes this tunnel. And I think when I popped out, I don't know if I missed the tunnel, and that's why I was able to, float around the hospital. You look. It's been 40 years to kind of dissect and try and figure out exactly what happened, or why I went into this dark space. Now, it was amazing and beautiful and fantastic, and it was it was perfect. It knew me. The space, the vastness of this place I went to was cognizant and intelligent, and it knew me, and it held me, and it loved me. And the satisfaction of being in this wonderful place, I could have stayed there forever. I had no need for anything else, but where I was right then, completely satisfied. And when they brought me back, I missed this darkness so badly. In fact, for years, I used to sit in the corner of my bedroom in the dark and put blankets over my head, trying to create as dark of a space that I was in. There was no seeing anything. Everything was feel. And I've never been able to, because, when you close your eyelids, there's flickers of light and things. So I could never recreate that space, and I've longed for it. And as I was healing in the hospital, which took a really long time, and I've mentioned now that they were able to bring both me and my baby girl back. She had drowned, and it was touch and go for a while, but she is perfect. And so there were 2 miracles achieved that night. But I was in a real mystery of the other NDEs that, when you said mine was interesting, well, I was thinking it was very not interesting because when I mentioned it to it was a teaching hospital, and they had some researchers come in because I was a very good candidate for an NDE experience research, because I was in a hospital setting. I had been declared dead. I was pregnant and I was not using any kind of drugs or alcohol. They hadn't administered any kind of painkiller or anything. So I was a pretty clean candidate to go through, to ask me, did I see or hear, or what happened during my near-death experience? And I had no great story to tell. I didn't have gardens and grandma and Jesus, and my father had passed 15 years before. And I thought, as I lay there dying, well, this is unfortunate, but at least I might be seeing my dad. Well, in fact, I was sure I was going to be seeing my dad. And, as I laid there healing, I realized I hadn't seen any of those things. I had seen perfect blackness. What's wrong with me? How come I didn't have that cool stuff? I don't even have a good story. And the researcher that I told that to, of this perfect blackness, was a negativity, what kind of washed across her face, like that wasn't a good enough story, or it wasn't exactly what they wanted, or it didn't fit the mold. I don't know, but I felt negativity from what I had said, and I thought, my perfect, beautiful, sublime experience was going to be exposed as something negative. And it wasn't negative. It was perfect. It was mine. And I protected it. And I pushed it deep down inside, and I wouldn't talk about it. I didn't want, just it to be soiled by anybody's else's idea, or mentioning possibly I was in hell or something. It's like, that was not hell. That was amazing. And so I didn't talk about it, though inwardly I looked and studied and researched all kinds of other NDE experiences, looking for me. I wanted to find me in somebody else's experience. And I have since then, but in those early years, I think all of us that had that dark experience kind of kept it in the closet, probably for that exact reason of not wanting anybody to put any negativity on it. So I spent, over 20 years keeping it a secret, and really researching. And it's only been maybe a dozen years now where it has really bubbled up, and I have really wanted to examine it. And so I feel like my experience, well, I say feel like, it's been, just lost the word, but it's been confirmed by the other side that I have been experiencing memories of it. They were washed before I came back. I guess it just wasn't time. I don't know. Have no really good answer why some remember right away. Now, I know near-death experiences, people have said, gee, they seem to get bigger, and they actually do. But it's just as the years go by, you start remembering, or as the veil gets thinner, you're able to describe better, or our feelings, or we're able to put maybe things that we felt into better description and pictures to describe. And that was happening for me because I had this underlying anger. Anger's, I mean, I wasn't anger, but of why was my experience so different? And I would ask, and I started to pray about it, and and sometimes I'd put up my fist and just go, I want to know. I know there was something more. And so I started having these amazing dreams that I know now as my spirit guide was leading them, but he would be off in the corner in some weird, I'd be having a dream and he'd be floating around on the side of the dream in some weird costume to get my attention. And I'd wake up in the morning and go, there was a fairy in my dream, or there was a whirling dervish, or what was Mrs. Doubtfire doing, kind of just weird, the Texaco man. I mean, there were a number of them just over and over, because he was trying to teach me to become lucid within my dreams. And he would hold up a sign, and like when he was in his fairy costume, he had a wand. Oh, I'll have to tell you his costume first. I mean, he was in a pink fairy costume, the little tutu, and this big hairy chest and hairy back, and he had like 4 days growth of beard, and a chubby little cigar with the ash hanging off the cigar. And I mean, just bizarre pictures, but it was bizarre enough for me to go, what's going on up there? And so he took his fairy wand and he to this billboard and said, come with me, or pay attention to this. And I was slowly being taught to become lucid in my dreams. And I would wake up from this amazing dream of being in like a school, an in between school, and I get these amazing lessons, and I call them, pieces of the spiritual puzzle. I started to understand things. I'm like, oh, this is why there's so much turmoil in the earth, or that's who God is. And, just starting to build this great puzzle when I'd wake up and go, I suddenly knew stuff. It was really amazing. And I gave it the term spirit school. And as you could tell, I'm a storyteller. I would wake up and I would write it verbatim. I kept journals by the side of my bed, and I would capture them. I didn't know what I was going to do with them, but I knew that they had to be written down. And so I have journals and journals and walls of journals of dreams. And I had a friend that said, you've got a book. You've got a book in you. And I was like, how do I turn little stories, little dream stories into a book? But I feel like, I've written 3 books now, and I just am finishing my 4th. So I guess there was a book in me. In fact, this is my first one, Gifts from the Edge. That's the baby. They're about my journey, my learning about my spirit guide, um, communication with the other side. These are my spirit school lessons from the Edge. And also We Touched Heaven, which is a compilation of 47 different near-death or spiritual transformative experiences from some of the most amazing people. And it's been given a thumbs up and a terrific by Dr. Raymond Moody. So from this girl who didn't understand her own near-death experience, I've kind of come a long way.
What kind of memories unfolded for you over time? Were you remembering more details, or tell me about that?
Well, it's funny because as I was having these and going, I actually asked my guide, and they're so funny on the other side. I just want to express that if you ever have you hear a voice or something that just doesn't feel right, that's not from the light. You'll know from the light, because they'll throw a joke at you. It's humorous. They're light and bubbly and fun, and they'll kind of pick at you a little but in jovial. So I say that for anyone in the audience who is confused, because sometimes we wonder, was that my mind or is that something else? And I wondered for a while myself. And you have to use discernment at first, but I would say go with the feeling. And I say that just as because I asked one time, and it was like, what are these? Are these memories of my near-death experience, or am I going to sleep and you're taking me to spirit school now? And they just kind of laughed at me and said, does it matter? It's kind of like, and so I say that it's like, we're so used to putting labels on everything. And it's like, well, how did this unfold? And sometimes there isn't a clear linear answer. All I know is that I will wake up and go, oh my goodness, I've just been to spirit school. And um, they will teach me. One of the things that I'll share from spirit school was the fact that it's like, how come then we just don't have all the answers? Why don't they just give it to us? Why are we left here to fumble and tumble and in the darkness and wonder, is there a God, and why are we going through this and all of that? And so experienced being with with a teacher, and I will answer a question as far as, because I knew I was in school, but I didn't really see students. I just felt them. I didn't need to see them. I just knew of where I was. And as I say, the other side is feeling more than anything. So I knew that there were others around me, though I was focused on the teacher, and I knew my spirit guide was always with me. And I was asking that, and they said, well, here, let's go through this exercise. And he handed me this pillow. Now, I grew up in the 1950s. I was born in 53, and in my neighborhood, there were kind of set furniture settings. People either like kind of the pioneer kind of style mission furniture or whatever. And there were a number of homes that had this really atrocious looking pillow. And it was this translucent brown color, a little bit kind of shiny, and it had little pink velvet polka dots all over it. It made no sense. I was pretty hideous little brown pillow, but it seemed like it was on so many couches. I don't know. There must have been a sale of them in my neighborhood or something. So here they brought back something from, an old memory of mine and said, describe this pillow to me. And I start going, well, it's kind of brown and it's round and and he's like, no, tell me about, if I had no idea of color or what the color brown was, or even round. He's like, describe this in a different way. And, I really fumbled with that. I was like, I was trying to, uh, I equated it to an onion, the color of it. And I said, well, it's got these different layers, and they kind of come to the top, and at the top, the color is more like that onion brown at the, and he said, now don't tell me, but try to tell somebody else who doesn't understand. And like you were talking to your son on the phone. And boy, by the time that exercise was over, it was like, I get it. We need a foundation to be given the answers. There's a, it's big. It's a lot. The spiritual side is so much more. Not that we're stupid or anything like that. It's just we have a limited brain capacity. Like we were saying earlier, we need labels, we need fixed things to understand, and it's too big. It just doesn't fit. Our brains would explode. But what they're trying to do, especially with like your program, and just for us out here writing books and speaking and everything, if there's a little bit of information that can get in that feels comfortable, something that you can hold on to, check in the light, does it resonate with you? It starts adding a foundation where more and more of that spiritual puzzle can be laid upon a stronger foundation, so our brains won't explode, basically. So in that spirit school, that answered a lot of questions for me.
I understand, I think, what you're saying. If we took a newborn baby, we wouldn't try to teach it calculus. They
Mm,
have like things that they have to learn. They have to learn how to crawl and walk and eat and do all those things, and then how to count, and we progress.
progress. And that's what we're here doing is every day in this world, every experience is a progression into that. Things that just seem so random and so simple could be a huge step into our understanding. So that was, another thing I learned from spirit school is like, why are we here? Why are we doing these mundane days of getting up in the morning and, it's like trying to find something to wear to work and be there all day and come home and, what am I going to have for dinner and turn on, the TV for an hour or two and go to bed and do it all again the next day. It seems my son asked me the other day, he's like, Mom, it just feels so pointless. But we're here in that experience, and whether it's learning patience, of just driving to work, and you can either arrive there a frazzled mess and having road rage with others or whatnot, or you can learn to take things in stride. I mean, those can be just really simple lessons on a daily basis of my I'm hardly making it till the next paycheck, and yet can you give service to somebody else?
I think that's an important point, and I'm glad that you bring it up because like I need reminding of this too. And I think a lot of times we don't think of it this way, but we always think there's going to be something better once we get to a certain point instead of taking the time to be in the moment and
In the
appreciate
moment.
right now for what it is and what it's teaching us. And I need that reminder often, and I try to remind myself of that on a daily basis. But I think that's kind of what we can get out of what you said, whereas we're learning the lessons right here, right now, and every day. And it's not, some big future event that's going to happen that we're going to now become enlightened.
Right, right. I mean, it would be wonderful if it was, and who knows? I mean, I have seen the flash. There are some things coming our way. We hear it all over the internet and that. But whether it's a complete enlightenment, I don't think so, because I think enlightenment is earned. It's worked toward. It's not something that's given. You know, you can be on your program all day long and have every guest in the world, but if your audience isn't kind of, listening and doing the work, it's not just a key that's handed over. You've got to do your own work. And when I say that, I do not mean to your audience either that this is, our reason here is we have to watch every program, and this is our purpose here is to just be here and live and experience and bring those experiences back. Do we have a purpose here? Absolutely. Is it huge? Is it this big thing that we're waiting for to accomplish? It could be just the one that is holding light in your neighborhood. It could be someone that a child trusts to tell an awful secret to. You could be planted in that particular space at that particular time to help somebody else. And that was your purpose. And the rest is just an experience to take back to the other side, and share. So when we're so busy looking for our reason and our purpose, and dear God, why am I here? It's like, just live your day, live your life, do your best, be nice, and you'll be okay.
You said something a minute ago that intrigued me, and I had no idea you had experienced this, but it's something that I've been hearing from a few people recently, and that was about a flash.
Mm.
Tell me more about this flash. What is this flash and what does it signify?
I was gifted to get a little bit of psychic ability, and I'm not fluent in any of that, but I've had enough experience in all kinds of phenomenon that I can at least speak intelligently about it. One of the things that I saw a future cast was, uh, boy, how do I like the sun? And I'm not sure if it was the sun, but what I saw were people, and they were representative of like little dashes, just massive, massive amounts of people. And this flash from the sun or something else came, and it would touch everyone. There was no one that was going to be missed. And it's coming, and it is enlightenment, but I don't believe that it is complete, full knowledge. I think it is the beginning of change. And they're calling it the event, but there is some kind of a solar flash or something that is coming. And every now and again, I look to the skies and go, we're ready, let's go. But apparently we're not quite yet. But, and I did receive the words, all will be touched, all will be touched. So whatever it is, I think it's going to be wonderful.
Well, that's very interesting. I heard that all will be touched as well. Not exactly those words, but no one can escape it, even
Exactly.
underground.
It's in Lessons from the Edge. And I don't know if you can see this. I called it the big wave. I'll put it here for a second.
Oh, can't
Can
see
you
it. Can you move it
can't
up
see it?
just a little bit? Can you move it up a little? Oh, okay, there it is. Yes, it looks like a wave.
Yeah, in the book, I called it the big wave. I'll read a little bit of it. I
Okay.
see a white screen letting me know to prepare myself, and then a moving picture appears. Sometimes it is over within seconds, but those seconds are very powerful. I have written of the world change that is coming, and a feeling accentuated in this vision. I saw a type of triangle filled with short lines, or what I call dashes. In the past, a dash is referred to a person or people, and I will continue to use this reference. There were many dashes, and the triangle grew endlessly and wider at the bottom, representing the billions of souls here on earth. A large ball of white gold light came into view, and as if the sun were en route and moving close and hanging closely over the earth. Sorry, I need my glasses. A flash of light came within the ball, creating a wave that began to slowly ripple over the beginning rows of people dashes. As the light moved over them, the color of the dashes grew deeper, thicker, and more pronounced. The wave continued, immensing each dash with its light. Now row after row of dashes. None was left out. All were being touched by this directed light. When it was over, the ball of light began to retract backwards into the sky, and then the vision ended. I include this story in my crude drawing of it here in hopes it will assist in your own understanding. When the change comes, the light will find you, no matter where you are or who you are. There will be no hiding from it, and you will be illuminated by its light. So set aside your fears and face the beauty of what is coming.
So that sounds like it could be frightening, but you said it's going to be beautiful. It's going to
It's going to
be
be beautiful.
enlightening. We're going to go through some wonderful changes with the light.
Wonderful changes. Yeah. Yeah. But everybody's different. When something like that, it will evoke a lot of fear, but in the end, it will be beautiful. I had a dream. Didn't mean to go into this one either, but I dreamed that there was something going on the moon. Now, this is a metaphor, and this is how my dreams come. It's like, Claudia, let people know this is a story. This is how you received it so that you can give it to your audience, right? Sometimes it's not exactly how it happens. This is the picture we're giving you so you can explain it to others. So I received this of something going on in the moon, and everybody was super excited. It was kind of like we're looking at it. Some people were running to the basements and dusting off telescopes, and people were standing outside and trying to see something happen in real time. And some were absolutely ignoring it. No, I don't want to know. And some were absolutely in fear of what it could be. And there was one represented of, she was going to make a rocket ship and she was going to go to the moon and see it firsthand, right? It was explaining all of the different ways that people are accepting of something strange, something different. It's all okay. Every one of those, the ones that were stuck to the TV screen rather than even walking outside, to view it. It was like everybody has their own way of acceptance of things like this. So whether she rocketed off, now this is a dream. So, it was like cartoons, you can put a stick of dynamite or something and fly up there, but it was very representative of how people are going to handle these changes. And some are going to be fearful. And so it's really important for those of us who get it, to be that beacon of light, that calm force to help people through some of these hard times to come, that we just need to hold on to ourselves.
Yeah. So, okay, there's a lot that I want to talk about.
Yay.
Um, because I think this is on a lot of people's minds right now. Because we're seeing so many earth changes and people just have this feeling that there's something coming. I guess the experience is going to be very personal for each individual.
Mhm.
How can we prepare ourselves to get through it in the best way possible while avoiding as much fear as possible?
Wow. Ooh, deep. On the surface level, just on the physical level, and I've told all of my kids, there's going to be some discomfort coming. There's no, this whole hoarding and going in the basement and having 10 years worth of food and all of that stuff. It's like all are going to be touched. We're all going to be inconvenienced. What's coming is probably the electrical grid is going to go down. We're not going to be able to get gas and things. And I don't want to turn this into anything to evoke fear. It's there. We're going to face some discomfort in the future. It's coming. So I've told my children, it's like, get some emergency water. I don't want to see any of my grandkids thirsty, because we depend on what's coming out of the tap. And if the electricity goes down, we turn that tap and nothing's going to happen. So it's like, get a couple of weeks of water, a little bit of food. And that may or may not help. I'm not saying that it will. That's my personal opinion. I don't think, boy, and we're going off in a lot of opinion, and everybody has one. So I don't need to express that a personal opinion about it. Just know that I'm trying to get back to your question because I've been on a very physical part of your question.
Yeah.
And if you are, listening, you've got an audience of seekers, obviously, to spend an hour or two, on your program and someone else's. And, there's real questions out there. And you're right, there is a feeling in the air that something's coming. I would do my best to build a relationship with God. How do you do that? Because when I was feeling like I was protecting a possible negative comment about my near-death experience, I looked at the religion I was in and it didn't match, the feelings that I was growing and having about my near-death experience and, waking up from spirit school and whatnot. It wasn't gelling for me. And I didn't pray for a long time. Praying felt religious. And I was running from religion. I was running from the box, not from God, but just feeling like it had to be structured and it had to all fit. And I had questions that nobody could answer. And I thought, well, I'm going, straight to the big guy. I'm going to ask my own questions. And I expected answers and I got answers. They took a very long time. But I would, in answer to your question, I would build a relationship. How do you do that? Well, I had a real problem with the way I was taught to say prayers. I didn't like thee and thou and whilst and all those words that are not in my modern vernacular. It felt like I was stacking bricks and building a wall between myself and God. And I really didn't feel like I needed to have to go to someone, a bishop, a priest, or, whatever, to have a relationship with God. So in answer to your question, I would say start there. If you're not praying, and boy, I'm not advocating, you don't have to get down on your hands and knees. You don't have to light a candle. You don't have to have a darkened room or, any special circumstance. My job for years was driving as a traveling salesperson in eyewear, and I spent a lot of time, in windshield time, basically in my car, and I just started speaking to God or my spirit guide or whomever. I called up my friend in the passenger seat. Whoever you are, I know you're here, and I just talked to them, and that relationship really built over time until I actually got talked to back. So I think that that's going to be the best answer, is just settle yourself into your own worthiness of having a relationship with God and not having to have a middleman to have one.
I don't think there's a better answer. That is so good. And I love the way that you described how you were running away from the dogma and the box, not
Mm,
God, because I think that really describes what a lot of people are feeling. They're not trying to run away from God or truth. They're trying to run from judgment and
judgment. Oh my goodness.
the things that the
Bad word,
negativity.
judgment.
Right.
Bad. Yeah.
The
There's
things that don't
not
resonate.
judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot that doesn't resonate with organized religion with people now. I think like there's a frequency change in the planet, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not that we're getting away from God, it's that we're getting away from, like you said, those negative things that come
Mm,
with the organization.
yes. Yeah, to be told over and over, you're a sinner, you're no good. A baby, is going to go to hell because it wasn't baptized or whatever at so many weeks old, or this is the only religion that you're going to be able to go to heaven. All the rest of the billions of people on the earth are going to falter and fall. It's like, really? That does not compute, And so during my life review, I'll just again, I'll give you a short story of the screens around me and going through that review and seeing those very small little kindnesses that you do and being able to see what happened afterwards, how it affected a generation of family because somebody possibly didn't kill themselves that day because somebody actually took the time and talked to them or smiled at them or opened a door for them and just made them feel like they were worthy to be on the planet, instead of just exiting. Because I saw one of those, and the ripples that you see, you're filled with so much pride of yourself and your ancestors and your guides and God and everyone who is going through this life review, this examination of your life. It is not, look what you did, sinner girl, boy, it is not. When I saw instances where I could have performed better or been kinder or done something different that might have really helped another person, those were, if you want to use the word judgment, but they were my judgment. They were me going, oh, I get it. I could have done this and I didn't. And you feel that, when you've done a good job and you're getting the atta girls and all that, and you're standing up straight and happy. But when you're seeing the negative side, you kind of pull inward and you're kind of, shrinking. That you're harder on yourself in those moments than any of those generous, wondrous, ancient, wise beings that are there to help you in your examination of your trip. We're here on this great trip, on this great planet that was been created for us, and it's been created to be hard on purpose. And guess what? We volunteered to come here. Okay, I'm going to come and I'm going to do this. And it's like, well, let's take some small steps. It's going to be harder than you think. And sometimes we get here and go, oh man, this place is really hard, but you're making a difference. You're really making a difference. And so, yeah.
That's so comforting and inspirational as well that,
Yay.
we chose this. We're here
Yeah.
because we wanted it and we're not
Yeah.
being forced.
Exactly. Like you were saying earlier, as we progress, these experiences add up, and man, I could go off on the trail of reincarnation and all that, but that probably going to be another visit together, but which it's 100% real. I'll tell you that right now. And we can dive deeper another time, but there are reasons why we take these trips, and that we put ourselves through it, and we starve, and we live from paycheck to paycheck, and we experience jealousy, and we experience a heartbreak of our love, being rejected, and all of those things. It's important. And we volunteered to go through it. We set ourselves up in certain families or places within the world to actually experience, say, starvation. We picked it, and we come back and we share that experience with God. We're physical foot soldiers of God here, and we have a purpose. That's our purpose, to come live, experience, and bring it back. So don't be ashamed of, what, yeah, there are things that you can do better. And I don't want, that's another trail of sin and badness and all of that, another time, maybe for another time. But yeah, be proud of yourselves for being here. Bravo. This is hard, and we'll be celebrated when we get back. Good job. That was hard.
And what would you say to people who say, well, you shouldn't be congratulating yourself? That's just feeding your ego and you're burying yourself deeper. What do you say to people who feel that way?
There's that line of where it's like when they say, name the people that you love, and you put yourself, if you even include yourself. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Did God make a mistake and I'm not as good as anybody else? I mean, self-care is really important. I mean, every single one of us are a piece of God. I have to love the godness in me. I'm searching for it every day. I'm trying to bring it more God of myself out every single day, and use that part of me. And how can I not love that? I ex- when I won't talk about how I got there, but I was experiencing a lot of self-doubt of myself, and I didn't see who I wanted to see when I looked in the mirror. And so I climbed up on the counter one day, and I made myself stare at myself in the mirror. I sat there and looked and looked and looked until I made friends with her. I saw who she really was. She came through, and I smiled at her and I said hello. And I've kept that visual of me learning to love me. And I would say it's an exercise that everyone should do. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of my own love. It's not my ego, it's my godness within me, and it's in all of us.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And I brought it up because I did see some comments recently about people not saying that it was not good to be proud of yourself. And
Mm,
it just didn't make sense to me. And I want people to know that it is okay and it is paramount to love
mhm.
yourself and not think it's not thinking that you're better than anyone.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's loving yourself and knowing you're equal and you're just as good as everyone.
Mm. If we looked at each other as a piece of God, it would be impossible to hate each other, including our own selves. And, you know, yeah, I mean, you can fill an ego full of needing the best clothes and new shoes every week and everything, and it's kind of a waste. But you know what? I can't even fault if that is your thing. You know what? If it helps you get up in the morning and do your best throughout the day to have new shoes every other week, okay, it's okay, but it's like if your ego does not include others, if you are always first, you know, trying to find good words here, there can be a point where it's like, take a breath, you're great, but so are other people. you know I don't know. I just think that there's not enough of ourselves loving our own person, our own humanness, our own godness. you know we expect too much of ourselves sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We can be very hard on ourselves, and sometimes we are the hardest on ourselves, most of the time.
mm, mm,
This has
yeah.
been a lovely conversation. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Yay.
If my audience wanted to reach out to you, if they wanted to purchase your books or they had questions for you, how can they find you?
I'm at what am I at? ClaudiaEdge.com, or stories at ClaudiaEdge.com. And I also have a website. Well, it's ClaudiaEdge.com, or Gifts from the Edge. I'm pretty findable. I'm out there a lot. Um, it's part of my mission to be out here talking, and I would love for you to write me, become a friend on Facebook. I love questions. I love the conversations. So I would welcome any of those contacts.
And if there was one message that you wanted to leave
Oh,
with the audience today, one thing you'd hope they take away from our conversation, what would it be?
as we were talking about our humanness and our godness and our expectations of ourselves, and just the toughness of this life, I actually threw it on the printer today. You are enough. I hope that comes through.
It is perfect.
You are enough. Do your day, do the best that you can, love those around you. You're going to have some days are going to be better than others, but it's all right. But don't make your life always, there's something, we talked about that earlier, there's something I'm supposed to do, there's the next step I'm supposed to go, there's it's live right now, appreciate what's happening around you right now, and you are enough. You're enough. You're a part of God. There can't be anything greater. You're God. Mm,
What a beautiful closing statement. Thank you so much, Claudia. You are just a wonderful soul, and
mm.
what a blessing to the world you are. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot. It touched my heart. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.